Ladies and gentlemen, I am Corione, your witch in residence, and apparently today I'm working with Comstar to bring you this special edition of my show. Now, you may be asking, what's so special? Well, as of the day of this recording, it's May 20th. For those who know, you're probably smiling ear to ear right now. For those that don't, May 20th is incredibly special in the lore of Battletech. It commemorates the victory of one of the most seminal battles in the history of the series between invaders with hyper advanced technology and space AT&T. And space AT&T won the day. So because of this, it's a huge celebration, and I wanted to share some of my favorite parts about this game series and the lore that surrounds it with you guys today. This is going to be more of a love letter than a let's look deeply in for meaning. Because in this game, yes, it's giant robots fighting each other on a map, using dice and marking down notes on paper. But it's more than that. The lore has the feeling of space Game of Thrones. And instead of knights on horseback, you have modern day man in futuristic fighting armor that measures 2 or 3 stories tall, acting as medieval knights, fighting for their ruler, for the leader of their house, and for one of the most noble of values in this world, fat stacks of cash. So, what happened? What's different between our world and theirs? Well, the story starts with how they developed faster than light travel. Instead of going like Star Trek's warp drive, they have to go more or less from one system less than, I think, 3 light years away to another system. And they almost have to hop as they go through gravity wells. So what happens is there are specialized ships that do the jumping around, and then you take a different ship that was connected to that ship down to whatever planet you were going to. And because of this, and because there wasn't communication by anything other than, a futuristic version of Pony Express, for a long time, they had to, communication was hard. So kingdoms evolved out of this. We had this neo-feudalistic series of empires come together, and at one point, they finally got united under this concept called the Star League, and during that uniting, they came to the conclusion that the massive warships that they were using to bombard planets from orbit were destroying the planets that they were trying to keep. So they decided that they needed new rules for warfare. They needed a new system. And thus, the giant robot battle mechs were created, piloted by, mech jocks who, depending upon the world they're from, could be anywhere from barely literate to, hyper advanced leaders of mega corporations. Now, use these tools of war to take over other planets, to take resources. All the while, the leaders of the houses are constantly vying for control. Now, the Star League eventually fell to corruption and a civil war. And all that was left was a fledgling faster-than-light communication network called Comstar. This network slowly built into something that was everywhere and became kind of like in Game of Thrones, kind of like the Maesters. Only instead of ravens, they were using giant, faster-than-light transmitting networks. And now imagine if the Maesters had been secretly building an army the whole time. Would have been really cool. So, we have our Game of Thrones-like position. We have our shadowy organizations. We have invaders coming in from beyond the known stars. All of this builds to a fantastic setting where you can have just about any kind of fight possible. And to explain why this particular series is so deep into my heart I have to go back a very, very long time. See, when I was a kid, I was very different than the other kids. Not because I knew I was a witch right away. That's a different story. But because I saw things very differently than everyone else. I could make connections that other people really couldn't. And so they arranged for me to go to a school where I was privileged to meet other kids that were uniquely bright in other ways. And I started to get to know them and realize that I did have peers like me, people like me that, were as interesting and fascinating and could see things that no one else could see. And one of the things we got into to keep our minds fresh on the ideas of tactics and the ideas of playing games was we got into the world of Battletech. And at this time, the late 80s, early 90s, Battletech was huge. There were even virtual reality centers you could go to pilot mech in these pods that made it feel real. And when your mech got hit, the pod would shake and everything. It was really cool. And over time, I stayed with it. And I managed to keep my friends with it as a connection through this game. And as we grew in our knowledge and as we grew in the lore, things kept getting better and better. And we'd enjoy it more and have more fun with it. And eventually we amassed all the lore we could get our hands on. And it became this bond that only we shared. It was fantastic and it was wonderful. And it was a unique piece of sci-fi that, while now feels in some ways a little retro-futuristic, in other ways feels absolutely wonderful. And it feels like going home every time I go to this world that I would never want to visit in real life. And I enjoy it so much. And that's why I'm going to appeal to you guys now. I am really, really asking that everybody who's on this channel, even if, you are not a big gamer, if you are not a big person necessarily for sci-fi-ish kind of things, try something from the Battletech universe this week, okay? Try one of the books, which, they're on Humble Bundle as of the last little while, and they're fantastic. Try playing a game at one of your friendly local gaming stores, okay? Ask them if they carry Battletech and see if they can get a pickup game going for you to try. There's a really terrible 90s cartoon that is fun in its cheesiness now. So maybe check that out if you want. It's on YouTube. Watch some of the videos from Tex Talks Battletech. I'll put a link in the description for you guys. But the guy is awesome. He's the voice of whiskey-soaked history and lore and madness. And it's so much fun. I really recommend his channel. Or, if you guys would like, message me in the comments and say, hey, I would like to get an online game of Battletech going. And we'll try to set it up and I'll try to walk you guys through it. I think that would be a lot of fun. The reason why I ask this is I want to keep this franchise alive. Recently, the Kickstarter for the latest iteration of Battletech was hugely successful. And it made an absolute ton of money. And now that I'm sitting here with its success and a pile of miniatures and books and everything, sometimes I harken back to when my friends had one book that cost $12, one map that cost $5, and we used little cardboard stand-ins with drawn pictures of our battle mech on it, on this map. So I think total we wound up maybe spending $20 between the four of us to initially start playing. Now I have 3D printed terrain and mechs and aerospace fighters and tanks and guys in little Iron Man suits hopping across the battlefield, shooting ray guns at each other, you name it. But it all started sitting in a Toronto library in a back corner, playing with my friends, enjoying the hell out of it. And that feeling of nostalgia blossomed into an absolute passion for this series. It's one of the few series that I can safely say has not been affected by current year politics. If anything, the series has gotten more elaborate and darker as time has gone on. I'm working on myself a Comstar flight jacket so I can cosplay going forward, and when it's finished I'll show it off for you guys, and if I go to a convention I will get my full Comstar uniform on and take some video for the channel if you guys would like to see that. But Battletech is a huge piece of my life. I really hope you guys decide to give it an attempt and see if it's something that you would like to be part of as well. With that in mind, guys, thank you very much. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.